the trance, so memory can step around, across, upon it, as one within a swoon goes safely, where an open eye would drop him, bone by bone.
Hi, Mitheldha here, and today I will be talking about a poem entitled There is a Pain So Utter by the greatest Emily Dickinson. Emily Elizabeth Dickinson was an American poet. Little known during her life, she has since been regarded as one of the most important figures in American poetry. Unrecognized in her own time, Emily Dickinson is known posthumously for her innovative use of form and syntax. Emily Dickinson left home as a teenager, eventually living a reclusive life on the family homestead. And there, she secretly created bundles of poetry and wrote hundreds of letters. Due to a discovery by her sister Lavina, Emily Dickinson's remarkable work was published after her death, which was on May 15, 1886 in Amherst, and she is now considered one of the towering figures of American literature. Emily Dickinson began writing as a teenager. Her early influences include Leonard Humphrey, principal of Amherst Academy, and a family friend named Benjamin Franklin Newton. Emily Dickinson died of heart failure at the age of 55, and she was laid to rest in her family plot at West Cemetery. The homestead where Dickson was born is now a museum. There is a Pain So Utter by Emily Dickinson is a very complicated poem. It uses abstract language to describe pain. Throughout this piece, readers may find themselves confused and amazed by the poet's use of language and style. In the first line of the poem, There is a Pain So Utter, Emily begins by using the line, "The letter" came to be used as the title of the poem. Due to the fact that Emily Dickinson didn't name her poems, the first lines often serve as the titles. The speaker adds that this same pain, which is so utter or consuming, is capable of swallowing substance up. It can take away everything, replacing it was the pain alone. The poet uses the word trance in the third line, suggesting that the pain covers the abyss with trance. With influence of the pain, memory can step around across upon it. Memory takes over once the pain comes. It's a way of being reintroduced to the pain from the past. The following lines are certainly up for interpretation. Emily Dickinson uses quite an abstract language, describing a swoon, also relates painful memories and an open eye. She is perhaps suggesting that being in this trance-like state or swoon is the only way to deal with the pain. If one addressed these issues with an open eye, then you'd be dropped bone by bone to the ground. The tone is dark and brooding. The speaker is talking about incredibly depressing subject matter, and the tone matches that. Readers might also note the tone of depressing and clarifying in that the speaker does not talk around anything. They address the subjects clearly. The mood is depressing and downtrodden as the tone is. Readers may walk away from this poem feeling worse than they did before, but they may also have a new understanding of what pain can be and what it may cause. Emily Dickinson makes use of several literary devices in There Is a Pain So Utter. For instance, imagery. It can be seen when the poet uses especially vibrant descriptions. For example, there is a pain so utter it swallows substance up. And then next is personification. It occurs when the poet imbues something inhuman with a human characteristic, like for example, memory can step around across upon it. Other than that, hyperbole. It occurs when the writer exaggerates something for a specific purpose. For example, when they state that there is a pain so utter it swallowed substance up. These are the examples of literary device that can be found in the poem. As for the structure and form, There Is a Pain So Utter by Emily Dickinson is an eight-line poem that is contained within a single stanza of text. The lines contain a few examples of half rhyme, like up and step. This is something that is common within most writers' work. And then we also have bone and swoon. Bone and swoon might also rhyme, depending on how they are pronounced. Readers are likely to notice Emily Dickinson's unique use of capitalization and spacing. Scholars are divided on why Emily Dickinson chose to use dashes and capitalization in the way she does. Most believe it was in order to emphasize certain words more and ensure that the reader paused when it was the right time to pause. The theme of the poem, There Is a Pain So Utter, is that the poet engages with themes of pain and loss in addition to memory and time. The speaker explores these themes while also signaling that there is even more beyond them, things that words can't effectively describe. There's a deep and overwhelming pain one might encounter, and it relates to memory and the way that these come in and out of one's mind, because the poem is fairly vague. Readers are going to have very different experience with it, since I think this is a powerful masterpiece. And last but not least, this poem describes perfectly to me the blindness and numbness that come with great grief, which support us and help us go on. For instance, like when someone dies, you live as if in a trance. This keeps us safe by hiding the greatness of our grief and protects us from falling into pain so great that we could barely survive it.